unprecedented destruction.
Iran has now clarified on reports of an explosion
during a visit to an Israeli town struck by an Iranian missile yesterday evening.
Something large is going to be destroyed tonight. The men who will destroy it are already underwater. Cold worked so deep into their hands that steel now feels warmer than skin. At 47 minutes, in zero visibility. One gloved hand is flat against the hull of something sleeping above the harbor floor. The warship is the harbor's weight and its pride, scheduled to move at dawn and carry force into contested water before sunrise. Patrol craft circle without rhythm, sentries hold the pier, and the water hides old debris that was never marked on the brief. Visibility disappears below the upper layer, current slides left without warning, and the target must be crippled from below because surprise cannot survive an attack from the air. If the ship is still afloat by dawn, it sails. The small boat does not stop so much as give up its motion. Paddles still. The men sitting low inside it become shapes with no edges. Each one bent over his rig, checking by touch what he already checked twice before. No one speaks. The sea is too close for speech now. Rebreathers are in. No bubbles. No light. One man slips over the side, then another, then the others follow with the quiet inevitability of tools being lowered into a well. The surface accepts them without a splash large enough to matter. Cold reaches first through the gloves, then under the seals at the neck, then into the jaw where the mouthpiece sits. The body wants to flinch at that first full surrender to black water, but training is older than fear here. They do not swim down fast. They let the dark close properly. At 2 o'clock, the surface support remains outside the harbor mouth, engine dead, hull drifting almost imperceptibly with the tide. Below it, for divers level out and begin moving in pairs. The night above them becomes irrelevant immediately. Underwater, there is only pressure, heading, and the distance to steel. They count progress in breath cycles, not minutes. 20 controlled breaths on heading. Stop. Touch check. Reset the line. 20 more. Each cycle is a unit of distance carved through black water, each exhale trapped inside the machine and returned to the lungs with a faint dry taste that gets harsher the longer the mission lasts. The harbor floor feels unfinished, like the bottom of a thought. Silt. Broken shell. Cable. A half-buried length of chain. Fins disturb what eyes cannot use, lifting mud into thicker darkness, so movement is careful and low, knees bent, hands occasionally searching forward where vision fails completely. Touch signals pass between them with the calm efficiency of habit. A squeeze on the forearm means hold. 2 taps across the shoulder means correct left. A firm palm between the shoulder blades means freeze exactly where you are and do not ask why. The line between the pairs is not just navigation. It is the only conversation allowed down here. Then the current arrives. It does not rush in dramatically. It simply begins taking from them. The navigation pair feels the heading pull wrong under their bodies, then wrong again under the line. The harbor floor no longer matches the expected feel, and the water starts moving them sideways, quietly, decisively, as if the whole approach has been nudged off its rails. The team is pushed off course in darkness and has no visual reference to recover on. The resolution is slow and tactile. Stop all unnecessary movement, gather the line, reset on the board by touch, and work the bearing back through discipline instead of speed. In clear water, finding the route is something the eyes help with. Here, reacquisition is done by pressure on the chest, the pull of the current along the thigh, and the certainty of trained hands. They continue inward. Breath cycle after breath cycle. The water gets colder near the lower layer, then steadies again, and every man feels the same thing without saying it. The harbor is close now. Steel is beginning to speak through the water, too faint to hear, too constant to mistake. At 0:23, the lead diver stops and extends one arm into blackness. His hand touches nothing. Then everything. First contact is not visual. It is a shock of certainty through the palm. One moment there is only water. The next there is a vertical wall of cold metal under the glove, immense and absolute. The diver keeps his hand there for a full breath cycle, confirming scale by stillness alone. The second diver closes on him. Together they begin running the hull, not looking for it but reading it. One hand stays in contact while the other searches along seams, subtle curvature, edges where plate gives way to structure. The warship is not seen. It is mapped by fingertips and wrist pressure. Above them, life moves through the vessel as vibration. A hatch closes somewhere overhead, and the impact travels down through steel like a muffled hammer blow. Footsteps follow, thin and irregular, crossing deck plating in patterns that feel more intimate underwater than they would in air. The enemy is never described by face or uniform. The enemy is weight moving overhead. The lead diver drops lower, tracing the underbody contour by feel, counting along the hull in increments known only to the team and the mission plan. The water beneath the ship feels tighter somehow, more enclosed, more aware. Sound no longer spreads, it gathers. Then the harbor patrol boat comes around. Its propellers are heard first as a distant chopping that grows harder with each second. The rhythm enters through the water, through the hull, through the diver's teeth and sternum. Every man presses closer to the warship's body, making himself smaller by force of will, flattening against the same steel he is about to betray. The patrol craft passes overhead once. Then slows. Then stops. The patrol boat idles directly over the divers during target work. The resolution is simple and brutal. Absolute stillness. No fin stroke, no line correction, no shift of cramped muscles, no release of a hand even when the wrist begins to burn. The screws idle above them, and the sound rains down through the hull until ship and patrol boat feel like one machine enclosing 4 motionless men. 1 breath cycle. 2. 5. 10. The water seems to grow heavier around them. Somewhere above, an engine note changes. A boot moves. A metal edge rings lightly. Still no one below moves. Then, slowly, the propellers bite again. The patrol craft pulls away. The vibration weakens by degrees rather than all at once, and only when it is fully gone do the divers resume the work of touch. At 0:47, the hull has been confirmed, the placement zone has been found, and every second left before withdrawal begins to matter. The first charge is brought in tight against the chest. Underwater, there is no flourish to any of this. Everything is close, controlled, compressed into the shortest possible movement. The diver reaches forward until metal nearly touches metal, then searches for a surface that feels right through the glove. The first contact is imperfect. The surface is too smooth, too featureless. He withdraws a fraction, slides along the hull, finds a subtle change in texture, and seats it again with slow pressure. Then comes the smallest sound of the mission, and in that moment it feels like the loudest. A click. Every man freezes. No one above reacts. No change in footsteps. No sudden engine note. The harbor keeps breathing its own rhythm, and the diver holds that first charge in place a moment longer, confirming by touch what he cannot risk checking any other way. Only then does he signal completion. The second charge goes lower. The diver braces one forearm against the hull and works by feel, fingertips moving across steel as if reading a sentence written in cold. The ship's skin is slick with harbor residue, and the pressure required is greater than expected. Again he pauses before final contact. Again the harbor seems to listen. Click. This time the pause after it is worse, because they know exactly how audible that tiny sound feels underwater. The patrol boat is farther away now, but the sentries above are not. One of the security divers feels a faint knock of movement through the hull, someone walking overhead, perhaps no more than that, yet even that small transfer of force is enough to tighten every muscle in his body. The third charge becomes the problem. Where the team expects a secure surface, the hull feels different than the brief suggested. Smoother. Treated. Less willing to take hold. The charge shifts under pressure and threatens to slip, not falling away entirely but refusing the certainty the diver needs. For a moment the only thing moving is the tremor of controlled frustration in his wrist. One charge refuses to seat cleanly on the first attempt because the hull surface feels unlike the intelligence estimate. The resolution is adaptation without wasted motion. Ease it back, shift a short distance along the hull, search for better purchase, and reseat with slower, more exact pressure. This time the contact is clean. The diver leaves his palm against it through 2 breath cycles, then gives the confirmation signal. The tension moves down the line like a pulse. Not relief. Just continuation. By the 4th charge, the rebreathers have become part of the pressure in each man's head. The dry taste is stronger now. The inhale feels warmer, heavier, slightly less forgiving. One diver knows before anyone says anything that his unit is moving toward the edge of comfort. CO2 anxiety is not dramatic at first. It begins as thought. A shallow urge to take a bigger breath. A sudden interest in the tightness at the sternum. A diver feels his breathing loop becoming harsher and the mission is not complete. The resolution is ruthless economy. Security compresses inward, all non-essential movement stops, and the final task is completed with no hesitation, no repeat search, no wasted correction. In black water, discipline is oxygen. The 4th charge is placed higher than the others but still within the selected portion of the ship's body. The diver finds the surface by tracing a seam, steadies with his offhand, and lets his fingers settle before final pressure. The confirmation sequence passes diver to diver through touch alone. Wrist. Forearm. Shoulder. Return squeeze. Timers are armed by feel, every motion deliberate, practiced, and beyond the need for words. The work is done. At 1:08, the lead diver removes his hand from the hull. For the first time in nearly an hour, there is nothing solid in front of them. The water between the target and the exit is longer on the way out than it was on the way in. On ingress, every motion is pulled forward by purpose. On withdrawal, every motion is pushed from behind by the knowledge that time is now running somewhere on the steel they just left. The body wants speed. Training insists on silence. They angle away from the hull and reacquire the outbound heading by touch. The line comes taut, then settles. One diver glances upward out of instinct and sees nothing at all. No surface, no shape, only depth above and below like black cloth folded endlessly in water. The current meets them again in open harbor. It takes at their hips and shoulders, trying to turn the pair broadside, trying to introduce drift back into a mission that has no spare distance left. They correct in small, stubborn increments, never overkicking, never allowing panic to become propulsion. Silt lifts under careless fin stroke and wraps the rear pair in a fresh cloud of useless darkness. The lead diver feels the pull change and stops instantly. A squeeze passes down the line. They hold. Let the suspended mud settle enough to become mere blindness instead of total disorientation. Then they move again. Something catches the line. Not hard. Not enough to snap or even to halt them fully. Just enough to tell the rear pair that some forgotten remnant of the harbor has reached up and taken an interest in them. A hand follows the line back and finds rough mesh or wire, old and half-buried, not a full barrier but a hazard with teeth, a submerged remnant not present in the brief snags the withdrawal line under time pressure. The resolution is quiet handwork in place. No yanking, no sudden motions, just careful release, a small cut where required, and immediate line control to prevent a second snag. The obstruction takes seconds that feel like minutes, but it does not keep them. Above, a patrol craft crosses again, this time farther out, its propeller beat moving left to right in a clean transit with no pause. The divers do not celebrate that. They have been underwater long enough to know how easily a safe moment becomes a loud one. The warship's vibration fades behind them, then disappears. In its place is only harbor water, cold and directionless, and the growing certainty that the next change in the night will not come from them. At 1:31, the lead diver touches the prearranged ascent point. He gives one squeeze down the line. They rise. The ascent is controlled and almost gentle. They do not rush the surface. First a slow lift. Then a pause just under it, listening through the water to the air above. Even now, after the hardest part, they refuse unnecessary noise. One head breaks the surface by inches. Forehead. Mask crown. Mouthpiece still sealed. The diver listens. Harbor alarms have not started yet. No engines are racing directly toward them. Nothing in the night says they have been seen. He signals, and the others come up around him like dark stones surfacing. The recovery signal is minimal, a disciplined point of light used so briefly it might have been mistaken for a trick of distant harbor glare. But the team offshore sees it. Far outside the anchorage, the small craft begins to move in, engine still dead, paddles only. Each stroke is short, close to the water, careful not to slap. The first hands that reach down into the dark are rough with urgency. One diver is pulled by the harness, another by shoulder straps and arm, fins dragging momentarily along the tube before clearing into the boat. No one counts aloud. No one needs to. Each body coming over the side adds one more solid fact to the night. 4 aboard. Gear gathered. Bow turning out. At 1:38, the small craft is already moving away by paddle and current. Behind it, the harbor remains black and apparently unchanged. That unchanged appearance feels almost insulting, as if the sea is pretending nothing has been set in motion below it. No one on the boat turns fully around. They keep their heads low, eyes forward, listening for the event they know is coming. The cold is sharper in the air now. Rebreather taste lingers at the back of the throat like metal and paper. One diver flexes his hands once, not to warm them but to convince himself they are no longer on the hull. From 600 meters out, dark water becomes a stage that refuses to show its cue until the exact second it must. The small craft keeps moving, slow and low, the paddle slipping in and out without splash. Then the harbor night is punched upward from below. A column of water rises where the warship had been, sudden and vertical, carrying spray, debris, and the ghostly shape of broken force into the air before gravity remembers itself. Because of the distance, the men in the boat see the violence first as movement and mass, not sound. It is the sea itself lifting in anger. The sound arrives a beat later, hard and flat and enormous, striking across the surface like a slammed metal door the size of the harbor. Then comes the deeper rolling concussion beneath it, a second note traveling lower, wider, more final. After that, the collapsing column crashes back down in sections, and the harbor begins shouting at itself. Alarms bloom unevenly. Some start at once, others a second late, as if disbelief itself has delayed them. Small craft break from their patterns and surge toward the blast area too quickly, too close together, searchlights beginning to stab at black water that already holds nothing useful. Voices carry over distance in fragments, commands, questions, names, reports no one can yet confirm. A second vessel deeper in the anchorage, not the target but near enough to feel the shock, is thrown into the confusion with the rest. It is not destroyed, but it is changed by proximity to the blast, suddenly part of the same panic, the same shouted uncertainty, the same scramble to understand whether the harbor has been attacked from air, from surface, or from underneath its own skin. On the small boat, the divers do not react like spectators. No cheering. No spoken triumph. Only the collective, silent recognition that the mission has passed from their hands into history. The paddles keep working. Distance keeps increasing. The harbor, for all its lights and alarms, is now a problem for the men left inside it. By 1:40 and some seconds, the first real response craft are converging on the blast site. By then, the team that caused it is already outside the shape of the search, another patch of darkness on a dark sea, moving away under moonless sky. The water that delivered them in has delivered them back out again without giving up their names. Later, the official report will say explosion in anchorage, severe damage, emergency response initiated, sabotage suspected, operational readiness compromised. It will speak in the stiff language of institutions trying to preserve dignity after shock. It will describe the result, the casualties, the urgency, the investigation. It will not describe the silence before it. It will not mention 4 men moving through cold black water by touch alone. It will not mention the clicks no one above heard, the patrol boat pausing overhead, the line caught on hidden metal, or the way a ship can still feel alive through steel just moments before the sea breaks it open. It will not admit how close the harbor was touched. By dawn, the divers are gone. By dawn, all charges have done their work. By dawn, the target is no longer a ship going anywhere. Divers recovered, all charges placed, 4 of 4. Target status at detonation, broken, burning, settling harbor patrol response time after detonation, immediate movement, delayed understanding. What enemy naval command reported to their government, sabotage, severe damage, emergency containment, investigation underway. What they did not include in that report, the harbor had already been entered, touched, and left before anyone understood the night had changed. By first light, the warship rests in 24 meters of water.